buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns. One for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
It's my rifle, this is my gun, this is for riding, it's for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Let me try that again. Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature right here on The Michael Dukes Show. Hello. Good morning. Are you ready for the greatest day of the week right here on Firearms Friday? I mean, are you ready? Yes, I'm so tired this morning. I actually overslept. It was like, I don't know what the deal was, but man, usually I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but I only got about 30 minutes this morning before the show, and I am not quite with it this morning yet. I don't know what the deal is, but oof, man. So, but here we are. Here we are. We're ready. It's okay. We could do Firearms Friday in our sleep, right? Because this is the one day a week we get a chance to talk about what I think is one of the most pressing, important, fundamental issues and rights that we can be discussing here on the program. Now, not everybody thinks so. I mean, I can look at the numbers and see, not on the radio, but when I'm watching, especially like on social medias and, when I simulcast the show on Facebook or YouTube, and I could go back and look at the numbers to see how many people watched it when it happened and how many people could go back and watch it. And it's just, it's not for everyone. I understand. You want more red meat politics. You want more, but this is important. This is important. Why? Because as old Chuck Heston said there in the intro to the show, as he does every Friday morning, the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. It's the one right that allows all the other rights to exist at all. Period. Full freaking stop. That's that's it right there. That is the mic drop moment. And most people don't really think about that. That it is the Second Amendment that has allowed us to remain as free as we are here in the United States. And I've said it, and I'll keep saying it, over and over and over again. But even with all our warts and blisters, and as bad as things seem like they can get here in the United States, we're still the freest nation on the face of the earth. And it's only because we are an armed society, right? We are the only nation in the world. Red meat. Everybody wants red meat. We're the only nation in the world where that right is enshrined. The prohibition on government interference in our fundamental rights are enshrined in our foundational documents. We're the only nation in the world that enshrines the right to bear arms. Hey, we love Australia. I mean, these days we love Mother England, right? I mean, we didn't at the beginning because, Screw those guys, right? But I mean, later on, they became our greatest ally, and we love Mother England. And we love many of our other allies around the world, but there's not a single one of them where most of us who listen to this program on a daily basis could probably just pick up our lives and go there and live because, well, you'd have to leave all your firearms behind. You wouldn't be able to carry to protect yourself on a daily basis. You wouldn't be able to go hunting in some cases without, begging the government's permission, signing your life away and going through 63 years of training courses to be able to do it. You just couldn't make it happen. And so while many people, they don't really connect the two, it is astonishing when you look at it and realize that it is the one thing that allows all the other rights to exist. I mean, look at what's going on today. Look at what's going on in the infringements of the First Amendment, right? Mark Zuckerberg this week stood before Congress and admitted that they kowtowed to pressure from the federal government and that he regrets that and that they've got new things in place. So the federal government basically came down and they jawboned them. It's called jawboning. They jawboned them into eliminating speech that wasn't necessarily untrue. It may have just been read out of context and misleading. It wasn't that they were just out there killing disinformation. They were forcing them to pull, and at one point, Facebook, Meta, actually turned over all of that moderation part of it, and they basically outsourced it to the federal government. And what do you guys think of this? What do you guys think of this? Should we do this? Is this okay? Can we kill? And now Zuckerberg got up and said, no. We know this happened with Twitter. Thanks to Matt Taibbi and the other guy for the Twitter files, right? Then Elon Musk bought it. And now Musk has said, well, I can't say what Musk said, but it has the initials F and U in it, right? That's basically what he said to everybody. You can't tell us what to put on there. It's free speech. Love it or leave it. But we're seeing that already. We're seeing where it's the discussion and the thought police and the everything else that's going on. Oh, you're not a right thinker. Oh, it's we're seeing these things being chipped away at. Now, the one thing that has kept this from going forward in a full-throated, full-bore way is the fact that they realize that the politicians, the people in power, can only go so far before the people will not take it anymore. I mean, then the people will be like, this far and no further. And because they have the right to keep and bear arms, that threat stands in the way. They understand that you can back up that rhetoric. As I've said many, many, many times before, the Second Amendment is not an overt threat. And I'm not talking about, when I talk about how important the Second Amendment is, I'm not talking about people who are marching in the streets, pitchforks, torches, and AR-15s on their backs. I'm not talking about the guys that are going to Starbucks in full battle rattle, with a tactical sling and their shotgun ordering a coffee or anything like that. I'm talking about it is the implied threat of you can only push us so far, and then we're going to push back. Now, look at what's happened across the world, right? You got places like China. You got places like, Tiananmen Square obviously is one of the most visual things that we could see where people took a stand on democracy or tried to fight back against the government and couldn't because they didn't have the same tools. I mean, there was a tank versus a guy, right? But even like, for example, in Russia, during the beginning of the Ukraine conflict, there were people, hundreds and thousands of people in the streets protesting what was going on. And they got shut up, they got put down, they got locked up, and they don't have the ability to push back against a government that is suppressing them. Venezuela, same thing's going on right now. Maduro says he won, even though all the other evidence points to the contrary, but he controls the military and they got no guns. So what are they going to do? And then we see what happens here in America, where people just basically, if the law makes no sense, if they feel that it's unconstitutional, if they feel that it just is ridiculous, Americans are bold enough to say no. The New York SAFE Act, right, which is their assault weapons ban, but 4.1% compliance in that estimated a 4% compliance rate. In Connecticut, it's even lower. It's like 3 something for the Connecticut assault weapons ban after Newtown. People just said, oh, that's a nice law. It'd be a shame if we just ignored it. Because why? Because we're law-abiding citizens, right? We're law-abiding citizens. We don't need to have all these more laws put on top of us for the people. And by the way, when you look at it statistically and you realize the actual percentiles of gun violence, and you realize that gun violence is being perpetrated in a country of 400 million guns with 330 million people in it, and you look at the actual numbers and you realize that the people that the percentiles that are being perpetrated on is like 0.0006% of the population is doing all that. That means 99.9994% of the population is obeying the law. And so when they see yet one more law that interferes or makes it more difficult for the average gun owners to exercise their rights, and they're like, wait a second, just wait a second. How does this help? Because the last time I checked, when you look up the term criminal in the dictionary, it means somebody who doesn't follow the law. So if you make just one more law, what does that do? Does it affect the guy who, by definition, doesn't follow the law? Or does it impact the law-abiding citizen who is just trying to be able to exercise their rights? Somebody in YouTube just said, Second Amendment was meant for officers, not people. You, my friend, are not a constitutional scholar. You probably should check into that, because that's not what it says. The people. And of course, that's not what the courts have now confirmed, is that is an individual right. That's what it's about. You know, that Bill of Rights, the 10 First Amendments to the Constitution were all about protecting the rights of the people from the government. That's what it was about. And why was that so important? Because they were just in the middle of fighting the government. That's why all those things were so important. Those were the 10 biggest issues of redress that they had with the government that they were breaking away from, that they had just fought a war over. And so they were very cognizant of what was good and what was bad. They knew what it was going to take. That's why the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment, the one right that allows all the other rights to exist, period, full stop. That's what it's about. So, anyway, I got a lot of stories to cover today, including some lessons learned from an incident that happened down in down in Tampa, Florida. We're going to have some lessons learned there. Elon Musk is coming out more and more. I don't agree with all of Musk's policies or positions on things, but it's becoming more and more apparent that he is putting his money where his mouth is, and he is now, there's a big thing where he's been supporting the Second Amendment, which I think is important as well, and we're going to talk about that. What else? What else we got? We've got new letters to the editors from the anti side. This new AI, this new letter that Kamala Harris has posted on her Twitter feed, her X feed, that is purportedly from Tucker. Now, whether it's supposed to be from Tucker Carlson or just somebody named Tucker, somebody called her out on it, and it's going to be an interesting discussion on that. We'll talk about that. All right, the Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We're going to return here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Phone lines. Oh, I forgot. I opened the phone lines. Man, geez. Sorry about that. Phone lines are now open. All you got to do is give us a call. No, that's not the right number. This is the right number. 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864. There you go. Give us a call right now. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more right after this.
Our light, our guide, and our trusted friend. Michael Duke Show.
Okay. All right, Harold. Look, I don't know what your deal is today. Musk is the new American apartheid. Show me one thing where he has embraced apartheid simply because he's from South Africa. Are you just throwing bombs today? Because if that's the case, I'll just mute you for today and you can come back on Tuesday. He's installing South African apartheid-style doctrine in America, land of the free, home of the brave. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I mean, I know sometimes you're just out there throwing bombs, but that's just dumb. Right? But, you know, proceed ahead. just thinking, you know, at what point has Musk ever embraced the idea of apartheid? It just free speech. Yup. Mute your opposition. Are you my opposition? Because if you're my opposition, I got nothing to worry about. I mean, if that's it. I mean, he must be hangry. Go get yourself a donut, Harold. Go get yourself a donut. The adults are talking in the room right now. I mean, sure. You know what? You just cite your source on where he's installing South African apartheid doctrine in America. Just send me that over there. Just go ahead and send it over. I mean, normally I just don't even care, you know, it's just that thing. But I mean, just something that is so blatantly, I mean, I think that's just what it is. He's just stirring stuff up this morning. Just stirring it up. Stirring it up. I mean, yeah, that makes no sense whatsoever. Okay. There we go. Thank you, Dustin. I think that was good. See, it's a good thing I didn't say anything bad, right? All right, we are continuing on here. I got some phone calls that are getting lined up right now. So slate-like. So Slate. I mean, that's just a headline that you're like, what? I mean, what? How does that even explain that to me? Explain that to me in small words, because I don't know if I can understand that. You guys are going to have to forgive me for a second because I got a problem with the Fairbanks stations that I can't fix here where I'm at. So you guys talk amongst yourselves for a second. All right. Sorry about that. Trying to get all that stuff squared away. You were on the air during your breaks earlier this week on 660. Well, I don't even know what to say. It will have to do with it. All right, here we go. We are 10 seconds out. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
What the hell is an assault weapon? Does that mean that if we hurt your feelings, you should consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can accept that. Here's Michael Dukes. Kind of a dick, but somewhat funny.
Really? I mean, really? Oh, man, welcome back to Firearms Friday. I had a call on hold, but they dropped off the line. I don't know why. I was dealing with something there in the break, but we're coming back to it. So phone lines are open at 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. If you'd like to call in and talk about anything that's firearms related, we could do that as we go through here. Brian just said it was probably Elon Musk himself. Man, I would put down my coffee to talk to Elon Musk at this point. Speaking of which, I would say this, he understands the Second Amendment. Maybe, like I said, I've not always agreed with everything that he's done. Some of his positions, he's taken government money for certain things and, pushed certain things. But overall, this guy is, he's really, I think, out there pushing some great stuff. And his view on the Second Amendment was highlighted recently, last week, when he posted a meme out on X, and he does a lot of things by that. He puts his stuff out there kind of in meme format to make the message, more accessible to the younger folks out there. But he's got a picture of what looked like the founding fathers surrounding a table, and he says the Second Amendment is the only reason long term that the First Amendment will be upheld, which is essentially, right, in order of importance. The Second Amendment is in order of importance. The First Amendment, the one right that allows all the... He essentially just said that. The Second Amendment is the only reason long-term that the First Amendment will be upheld. And he's got this meme of the Founding Fathers sitting around a table, and it says, Founding Fathers, here's the First Amendment. Oh, and in case someone tries to take that away, here's the Second Amendment. Again, he gets it. He gets it. I love that. I just, that's exactly what happened in a nutshell. That is exactly what happened. We got some discussion about this new letter from Kamala Harris, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. But we do have a phone call, and your calls reign supreme this morning as we continue to talk about. Remember, there's no such thing as a dumb gun question on Firearms Friday. We'll answer all your questions as best we can. If you've got a question, maybe you're not pro-gun, maybe you're not anti-gun, maybe you're gun curious. We'll try and answer whatever questions we can, but we love talking to you one way or the other. Whichever side of the aisle you're on, that's where we want to be. Let's go over to the phones and see what you have to say to begin with. We'll start off over here. Good morning. Who's this? And where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the Potawatomi regions near Michigan.
Oh, well, good morning. How are you from Michigan? What's happening?
Jolito, everything is great. My question, not my question, but my feedback on Kamala Harris. I feel like she is probably going to be the next president. I'm kind of stunned to the fact that she hasn't done much for her constituents in the Detroit regions and also the Chicago regions. There's a lot of blight going on, foreclosures and businesses closing. She hasn't done much for them. And also, what is your take on the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People being signed into state law? Thanks a lot, and I'll keep listening. I
appreciate it. Thank you for your call. I'm not familiar with the UN law that you're talking about, but anything that is put forward by the United Nations has a dubious smell to me to begin with. Now, as far as Kamala Harris doing anything, I mean, she was vice president. Her powers were pretty limited, but even in the things that she was entrusted with, including taking care of the borders and other things, she really hasn't done anything for her constituents or for anybody. I mean, really, look, the woman has been the announced presidential candidate for the Democrats for 5 weeks, and she hasn't done a single sit-down. Oh, I guess last night. She did a sit-down interview for the first time last night. I apologize. But she had, up until now, she hasn't done and she hasn't done a one-on-one interview anywhere. So, yeah, I'm a little disappointed in that. And, of course, her position on gun rights, I mean, we all know her position on gun rights, right?
Of AR-15 assault weapons. That's right. President Obama, after Sandy Hook, more than 23 executive actions, and yet here we all are today. In recent days, former Vice President Biden has said about executive orders, some really talented people are seeking the nomination. They said, I'm going to issue an executive order. Biden saying there's no constitutional authority to issue that executive order when they say I'm going to eliminate assault weapons, saying you can't do it by executive order any more than Trump can do things when he says he can do it by executive order. Does the vice president have a point there?
Some things you can. Many things you can't.
Let's let the senator answer.
Well, I mean, I would just say, hey, Joe, instead of saying no, we can't, let's say yes, we can.
So, I mean, unless, even though the Constitution says we can't do it, she says, instead of saying no, let's just say yes, we can. I mean, this is the woman that says it. She doesn't care about the Constitution. Instead of, it's not, even Joe Biden said it wasn't constitutional. He may have changed his tune a little bit since then. That was in 2020, but even he at the time was saying that's not constitutional. Instead of saying, let's say, yes, we can. No, you can't. That's why remember, let's go back to what I was talking about earlier. The Constitution is a stricture, not on the people. The Constitution is not a stricture or a prohibition on the people. It is a prohibition on government. Why? Because the founders understood that the nature of government is to grow. They knew that that's what it was. So they didn't write a constitution that prohibited the people and limited the rights of the people. They wrote a constitution that limited the rights, that limited the power of the government against the people. Shall not be infringed. The right of the people to assemble, the right of religion, the right to, not the right to all the different rights. That is a prohibition on government from preventing the people and from harming the people in those ways. That's the thing. We know where Kamala stands on that. Instead of saying no, let's just say yes. Wait, you mean that constitutional thing that doesn't matter to you? Obviously not. Obviously not. And then she did this. She puts out a tweet on X that posts this letter. Okay. And in posting this letter, she says, Tucker, thank you for writing me. While we may not agree on every issue, we both know that every person in our nation should have the freedom to live safe from gun violence. The majority of Americans stand with us in support of common sense gun safety legislation. And this is the letter. Vice President Harris, one of my absolute favorite things in America is how people of different backgrounds and beliefs have the freedom to communicate with each other. We're so blessed to live in a country where the greatest currency is the free-flowing exchange of ideas. In America, we're all blessed with the ability to come together on common ground. In the spirit of establishing common ground, even though I am fairly conservative and we may have our disagreements, I'm writing you to express my gratitude for your and President Biden's efforts to establish common sense gun safety laws. Owning firearms in every American constitutional fight, like all things, there needs to be legislation like age restrictions, background checks, and mental health screening. Thank you for heading the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention and for your and President Biden's push for common sense gun safety. I look forward to seeing what the Biden-Harris administration's accomplished in this regard. All the best, Tucker. Now, she doesn't say this is Tucker Carlson, although Tucker Carlson's probably, if you put Tucker into any search engine on the planet, Tucker Carlson will probably come back as the number one search heading. And the thing is, she doesn't say it's Tucker, but there's an implication, right? And so maybe this is just somebody in the country who also happens to be named Tucker, and she's taking advantage of, oh, hey, look, it's Tucker. Maybe some people will think it's Tucker Carlson. Maybe some people won't. But here's the problem. The problem is that people then went out and discovered by running the letter and the verbiage through a checker that this letter was 100% generated by AI. Now, it's very unusual to get 100%. You can get into the high 90s, but 100% is this is like they didn't even rewrite it. They just plopped it into ChatGTP, said, put us out a letter. They did it, and then they copy and pasted it. They didn't even try and modify it. So even though, through the implication is, well, maybe this was Tucker Carlson. I mean, I don't know. That being said, if you're posting a letter on your official social media account that is 100% AI generated, that doesn't even give you a warm, that's just like, how does that even happen? You are the vice president of the United States, and she posted it on her VP account. This is not on a campaign account. This is on the VP account. Well, in true form, Tucker Carlson decided, well, he can play that game. So he says, he's got a letter that he posts, and he said it's a letter from a fan. That's what he puts as his post there, and then he posts a picture of this letter, and it's, Dear Tucker, I can't believe I'm writing you this letter, but here goes. Honestly, I never thought we all had all that much in common. Since college, I've considered myself moderately progressive in a sense that I don't believe in law enforcement, national borders, or the rights of American citizens to exercise fundamental human autonomy. It seems like you were coming from a totally different place. I thought I disagreed with you on everything. Boy, was I wrong. The other night, I was looking at the internet and saw your conversation with Bobby Kennedy. There wasn't a word I disagreed with, not one. I turned to Montel and I said I was very wrong about this man, so very wrong. The way he talks, he's so bold, wise, and strong. He's immovable, like a towering oak in a windstorm. He sways gently but never breaks. His trunk is so broad and firm and rooted in the earth, I can't imagine the size of his root ball. I was so impressed, so thank you for showing me something about myself and about the world. I'll never forget it. Until we meet, XOXOXO Kamala. And every I in this letter has a little heart over it, which makes it just that much more ridiculous. But I mean, this is the thing, folks. We could continue on this disingenuous journey back and forth where politicians continue to pay lip service. The entire Democratic convention was all about joy. It was all about a feeling. It was nothing about policies. It was nothing about how do we move America forward. It was nothing about what do we do to fix the problem. It was all about joy and protecting democracy, all while not taking a vote on who the nominee was going to be, thereby not protecting democracy. I mean, I'm really trying to figure this whole thing out. I just cannot imagine which direction this is supposed to be going. But again, this is not a woman that you want overseeing your gun rights, any rights whatsoever. This is not you do not want to see that at all. At all. That's what I'm telling you right now. All right, we're coming up on the break. We got to flee real quick, but the phone lines are open. Again, 319-527-3864, 319-527-3864. Call now. Operators are standing by. I mean, not really, but I'm here. We'll be back right after this. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, well, we're going to see if that fixed it. I don't know if it fixed it or not, quite honestly. We're going to have to see how this works. Does this actually work? Did this work the way that it was intended? I don't know. All right. Let me go back over here. All right, let me go back up here. Harris wasn't in charge of the border. That's a stretch. I mean, they called her the border czar. She was supposed to go look at the root causes of the people migrating across the border and try and fix it. That was what the president said. I mean, am I wrong? I mean, why does one bullet rattle around in my magazine? Because, wow, I don't even know. You got the wrong bullet. You got a weak magazine spring. If it's on one bullet and it rattles around, you got to replace the springs. Teresa says, no dadgum dumb gun questions. Why not? I mean, there is no such thing as a dumb gun question. I mean, come on. That's, she sounds drunk. I mean, especially that last little blurb, right? That last little blurb where she, come on, Joe, don't say no. I'm just like, that's weird, man. I mean, my granddaughter's cat is named Tucker, says Ron. Maybe it was written by him. Possibly. Oh, man. The state is not your friend. The state is not your friend, says Brian. Yeah, I agree. Jim says at least Kamala and Tucker were being civil with each other. I mean, yeah, it's a little talk, a little tongue tucked behind the teeth kind of thing, right? Tongue in cheek kind of thing. And I know Jim is poking at me because I've been talking about civility this week, and nobody but me believes that we should be civil with each other. Everybody wants to call each other evil. So, I mean, you do you. You do you. Brand spanking new mag. Is it a single bullet that rattles around, or was it fully loaded, Brian? Because if it's fully loaded, I have questions. Have you shot it? Does it feed? He says, my brand new magazine has one bullet rattling around, and about all my magazines do this. Huh. One bullet while it's fully loaded? That's crazy. I don't know. Yeah, what brand and caliber? I guess that's a good question, Greg. What brand and caliber? Because that seems weird. I mean, the whole point of the magazine is to hold all the cartridges, in one place, ready to be fed. And so they're supposed to be kind of precision, right? I mean, they're supposed to be machined to tolerances. What? Yeah, I have questions. About that. SIG 9mm, says Brian, is the one that his that rattles is a SIG 9mm. Yeah, that's odd. I have I don't have an answer for that. It's I don't have an answer for that. Other than it seems like it's kind of odd because that should all be under compression, right? I mean, the whole stack of bullets should be under compression. Maybe there's room. Maybe the follower is not quite right on top of the spring. Maybe the follower's got some space in it. And once everything stacks up, it allows that one bullet to float a little bit, because I can't imagine it in between the bullets would do that. And of course, not at the top of the magazine where the lip is. Otherwise, they'd all shoot right back out of the magazine. But, maybe that's, yeah. Range tomorrow for research. Yes, I would agree. And Greg asks if it's a metal or polymer magazine. So I'll leave it to you guys to decide here where you're at and what's going on with that. Okay. Hey, look at that. It's fixed. We're ready to go. Take it to a gun repair shop. I'm not going to take a $30 magazine to a gun repair shop. I mean, you know what their hourly rate is over there? I'll throw it away and get a new magazine if that's the case. If I was that worried about it, that's what I would do right there. Okay. Well, we're ready for the final segment. Where was I? What was I going to talk about? Oh, I was going to talk about lessons learned. There we go. We'll talk about that. Lessons learned. And I have some thoughts on this, so we'll get back to it. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
If we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Well, yeah, I mean, all the protection guns. That's what we all need is protection guns, right? We don't need no murder guns around here. Protection guns. Speaking of protection guns, how about some lessons learned today? And by the way, again, phone lines are open. If you would like to, if you'd like to call in now, you can do so at 319-527-3864. 319-527-3864 are open now. Okay, there we go. You can go ahead and give us a call, and any question related to a Second Amendment or gun rights or issues, or we were just talking during the break, Brian's got a magazine that every time he fully loads it, there's one bullet that rattles around inside of it, and we were trying to figure out what could possibly cause that. We got quite. We'll try and answer anything we can do, but let's go back to lessons learned on a daily basis. If you decide that you want to take personal responsibility for your personal safety, then you have some decisions to make. When you decide to go forth armed, there are things that you need to think about. And first and foremost, when we talk about when we talk about that, we talk about you first purchasing the firearms. You'll remember that I have what's called the rule of three, right? The rule of three is whatever you spend to acquire that handgun that you've decided, because, I don't think most people are trying to conceal carry a rifle, but if you are going to go forth armed on a daily basis and carry concealed, the rule of three says you should take whatever you're going to spend on acquiring that firearm, and you should plan on spending 3 times that amount. So if it's a $500 firearm, you should expect to spend about $1,500. Why? Well, $500 to acquire the firearm, $500 in accessories, quality accessories, and I'm talking about a good holster, extra magazines, cleaning kits, dummy rounds and practice loads, snap caps, things like that. Maybe one of those X laser targeting things that you can put in there with your phone so you can do dry fire exercises, all that kind of stuff. And then $500 towards training courses. So that if you are not familiar, either a basic pistol class or a concealed class or both, or if you've already got that under your belt, maybe another $500 towards a combat pistol class or something like that. That's what the rule of three is all about. Now, I want to focus for a moment on the second part of the rule of three, which is the valid and the quality accessories. Because here's the story that came out of Concealed Nation this a few weeks ago. A man with a valid concealed carry license was escorted out of a theater in Tampa, Florida, by police following a patron reporting that following a report of someone handling a firearm in the theater. When the police arrived, according to WFLA, they escorted the gentleman out of the theater and determined that he had retrieved his pistol after it had fell out of its holster onto the floor. After reviewing that he had a valid concealed carry license, the authorities released him. The whole event pretty much ballooned outward because the concealed carry holder couldn't maintain control of his firearm. Thankfully, there was no negligent discharge due to the pistol leaving the holster and hitting the ground, and the police didn't charge him with anything. But this should be a lesson learned. If you can't count on your current holster system to retain your pistol or revolver without it slipping out, you're doing it wrong. This is why I have
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
It's my rifle, this is my gun, this is for fighting, it's for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a 2A nature. Hour 2. Sorry, we still got over in Rhode Island, and I wanted to give him to continue and sound off because we ran him right up against the clock there, and I wanted to make sure that he gets he got a chance to have his say and talk about everything here. So let's go back over to the phones and see what. Fred, he dropped off the line. So Fred dropped off the line there. So phone lines are open this morning at 319-527-3864. 319 527 3864. And how important it is for us to be part of it. And why we need to pay attention to it, because again, it is the one right that allows all the other rights to exist at all, and that's what it's all about. So let's go over to the phones. Looks like Fred has rejoined us now, and I wanted to finish up with him because Fred is our weekly caller. He calls in from Rhode Island every week. We love hearing from him. So let's go back over to him right now. Good morning, Fred. Thanks for sticking with us. Let's continue on that conversation. So, I mean, we obviously know that you're not going to be, in Kamala's corner. Are you worried about the potential for a second term of Trump and what he could do, especially based on some of the things that he did with firearms in his first term, the bump stock ban, saying that they'd take the guns later and worry about due process second and everything else? Do you have any concerns about that?
No, I do not. Trump has a tendency to, on stage, especially when he gets riled, he has a tendency to just speak his mind, without giving it a lot of forethought. But I mean, words by themselves are not. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe I should have given that a little more thought. But he's human. He's a human being, like the rest of the human beings, like all of us. And he's not perfect. But then again, in a comparison to that mimicking parrot, bird brain of an opponent he has, I think he's got a hell of a lot better choice than going the other way and watch them flush the whole thing down the commode.
Well, I mean, if it was just words, that would be one thing. But again, he did put out the the assault weapons ban through executive or not the assault weapons ban, the bump stock ban through an executive order.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a problem, isn't it?
Flowed through Congress, and gone through, the usual review, political review, but it didn't do that. So like I say, he reacted. He reacted. I think it was more at the moment, is more of a emotional than it was, any kind of real heavy duty forethought. Where the other side has an agenda. That scary part is Biden and Harris, and the rest of the clowns have an agenda, and their agenda is bury, so we can bury the rest of it. That is the agenda. No ifs, no ands, no buts. I mean, that's.
I'm sorry, Fred. Let me get this right here. How bad, in as far as would I rather have Kamala or would I rather have Kamala or Trump? Obviously, I'd rather have Kamala. It is problematic. And he would still be better than the alternative at that point. But I get a little concerned about a guy who even if he just says things through words, I still have a problem with that. It worries me, I guess is what I'm saying, Fred. That's all. It just
I think what he did, and I don't think that's really. I hope we point out is, it sit there and talk about gun control. What have they done to stop violence? What have they done to really address the violence problem? Not gun control, but violence problem. The drugs and this and the homeless and the crazies and who are unchecked. And it's not an insult on people with mental illness. It's just the reality of what we're living in this day and age. As far as like where the violence comes from, what have they done to address that? Except put attorney generals in there, Soros.
Violence. They don't talk about violence in general, and they keep saying, and in fact,
exactly.
there was a letter to the editor that came out that I think it was. I'm like, okay, so first of all,
right.
Even if that was possible, even if you could just wave a mystical wand and say, poof, countries that have break the law. But even if you could, look at what happened in England after they banned all guns there. The violence, the criminal violence, physical violence, all their because then they were going to do that. It's always about the root cause of the violence, and that's the thing that we keep missing out on. We need to figure out what the root cause of what the problem is there.
Well, if you get rid of the root cause, you solve the problem. These people.
That's the only reason why it's broken. The only reason why it's broken is because we have guns. And it's just, we have the tendency to do that, especially people who don't, who don't believe, who are sociopathic. I mean, people who are criminals who've decided that other people's rules don't apply to them, they'll take what they want. That's just human nature. That's the history of the human animal. And if we don't address that and take away, the problem is still going to be there.
I mean, the pre-firearm weapon, and you're going to see what the world would turn into again. You're right. Violence, if anything, it's going to get a lot worse. Without the guns. Violence is violence.
Yeah,
doesn't make any difference what tool they use. It's the act, not the tool.
All right, Fred. Well, thank you so much for sticking with us, and thank you for calling in this morning. We appreciate you sounding off on today's program. Thank you for being part of it.
Oh, you take care, Mike. Have a good week.
Have a great Labor Day weekend. Enjoy yourself. Which reminds me, folks, by the way, in case you were wondering, I will be off on Labor Day, and we'll be well, I won't be relaxing, but I'll be taking care of business. Speaking of that letter to the editor, this is I had the story already up. I mean, people always want to have their say in a letter to the editor, and that's great. But people just sometimes don't think, they just don't understand. This is the letter to the editor that came in from the Herald Mail Media. Where is the Herald Mail Media? Where is that at? Herald Mail Media. I don't know what part is that's in. It's Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. So here's the story. This is the actual quote from the letter to the editor. Here's a thought. Get rid of the guns and you'll get rid of all the shootings. Duh. And then do something about some of the underlying causes of violence instead of playing the blame game. Okay, so first and foremost, I think you've got that backwards, because if you got rid of all the guns, which again, as I mentioned, is an impossibility, and then do something about the underlying causes. I mean, look at Chicago. Chicago is one of the most stringent gun-controlled areas of the country, and yet every weekend, dozens and dozens and dozens of shootings. So how do you propose to get rid of all the guns from people who are already criminals to begin with? How do you expect that's going to happen? I mean, you don't say anything about illegal guns. Just get rid of the guns. That means there's just too many of them. And most of them are in law-abiding hands. And I guess if you passed a law, they would be the people that would be most likely to comply. But again, we could show you instance after instance where criminals just don't care. The Charlie Hebdo attack in Paris. This is one that always gets my goat, because France is very strident on their gun control policies. And so what did those guys do? Well, they just smuggled in crates of fully auto AK-47s. They didn't care. Terrorists or criminals or bad guys, they don't care what the law says. Why don't we address, instead of getting rid of the guns and then do something about the underlying causes, why don't we look at the underlying causes first? Especially since, as I pointed out earlier in the program today, the actual percentile of people who are actually committing this crime is less than 0.5%. Statistically, in a country of 330 million people with, 14,000 murders, That's a fraction of a fraction. Why should every law-abiding citizen out there pay the price and have to jump through all the hoops and beg the government's permission to perform or exercise a fundamental basic right because of the actions of less than 1% of all the people in the country? I mean, it's well less than half. It's 0.0006%, folks. That's the percentile. Why don't we address the underlying cause of violence to begin with? I mean, is there mental health issues? Absolutely. Do they need to be addressed? Yes. Is there a question of, broken homes and, what happened to the family unit and, normalizing violence and all these other things that are going on out there? Why aren't we talking about those things? Instead of laying all the blame at the feet of the gun. That's the question. All right, I just had a line get on hold, but I have to take a quick break, so caller, hold the line. We're going to be right back to you here. Don't go anywhere. One final segment dead ahead, and then we're going to pick it up with Willie Waffle. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with more right after this.
Running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Right now, how we work this later, but I broadcast to a single source. It's a website, StreamYard, and then StreamYard rebroadcasts that out to Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Well, at the end of the last hour, my connection is checked. All my other websites, audio streams, everything else is up and still running. My internet still works. But for some reason, StreamYard has crashed to the ground. Now, I've reconnected to Rumble and to YouTube through StreamYard, and I'm also broadcasting it on Facebook separately. So, and I know it's not great, and I apologize, but I can't. I just we'll figure it out. Let me in. There we go. I pull that one out. It's got me in here literally removed. There we go. There we go. All right. What the? It's the long week computer, so hopefully that will be great. All right. Let me go over to Oh, man. Didn't like me. We'll get him set up for the return to the airwaves here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Steve up from the bush. How you doing?
Hey, Steve. Oh, good. Will you hold the line for a second, my friend? We'll be rejoining radio here in about 90 seconds, okay?
You got it.
All right. We're going to put Steve-O back on hold here. And I'm going to go back here and see if there's anything else I can tweak to make it. All right. Well, you know what? We'll just have to deal with it. It's going to cut in and out. There's only 6 people watching on YouTube. There's 22 people watching on Rumble right now and another 15 watching on Facebook, I think. So we'll I don't know what's going on with StreamYard, but StreamYard does not. Anyway, thank you for coming out, and thank you for being part of it. Trace prescribed things. Prozac with some says throws coals on the violent tendencies. This is again the question of what SSRIs or psychotropic and what effect does that have on the violence in society? I mean, there could be. Caller, I apologize. We're going to jump back into you here. He's out in the bush. We know that. We're going to continue the Michael Duke Show. Common sense. Liberty Bay. I mean, I know the jingle bells, right? That was weird. That's weird. All right, welcome back to the program. It is Firearms Friday. We're continuing. We've got one final segment coming up. Willie Waffle is going to be joining us here in just a few minutes to talk about the weekend entertainment review morning with some thoughts and questions. Good morning, my friend. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Michael. How you doing? You're doing a great job.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's been an interesting Friday. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, sometimes we get thrown a lot of curveballs, and all we can do is just swing at them.
That's right. That's right. Sometimes you get a Monday on a Friday.
Yeah. So you just made a comment about you had read an article or something about most of the getting rid of all the guns, and you had said that most of the guns we take are in responsible gun owner hands.
Yeah.
And I would have to beg to differ. That's the only thing I'd have to say about that is I'd beg to differ. I'd say right now, the way things are, people are holding on to their guns.
Yeah, no, I don't. And maybe I misspoke because that was not my intention. What I'm saying is the people most likely to comply would be what we would consider to be law-abiding people. That's not to say that all of them would, right? But I mean, if you look at 99%,
yes, okay, most perfect.
Most likely to comply. Now, if you said 99% of gun owners are lawful and legal, and then they said everybody turn in their guns, how much of a percentage do I think that those 99% would turn in? I'd be honest, if it even got anywhere near halfway, I would be York. They estimate like a 4.2% compliance rate. So I don't think you would have a lot of people complying, but that would be the most. Criminals are obviously going to look at you and go, "What are you talking about, Willis?" They're not going to turn in their guns, but law-abiding citizens would be more likely.
Right. And it's kind of funny.
What's that?
I would say that a lot of Americans have multiple guns, and they might give them the old 177 caliber pellet gun and go, "Oh, that's all I got."
Right, exactly. Oh, here's my new accident. I mean, really, I mean that's the thing.
Right.
Look at all the guns, Steve. Look at all the guns that end up at these buybacks. These buybacks across the country where they're giving out. They turn up the most rattiest, rusted, broken, junky pellet guns. I mean, there's just some crap out there, and they'll turn in anything. You won't see some guy's Daniel Defense AR-15 get turned in at the first, at the first day of the turn-in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Right, most excellent. Yeah.
Yep. All right, Steve. Well, thank you so much thanks for coming on board. All right. Final thoughts here as we get ready to wrap up. I was going to talk about this article. I don't know if anybody saw this article on Must Read Alaska from about a week ago, 10 days ago. Lynn McCabe wrote an article talking about the Alaska gun rights. Now, I've met these guys and they seem like nice fellows. We've never gotten into a conversation. I've met them in passing. I've seen them at gun shows. But Lynn McCabe asks the question about why do the leaders of Alaska gun rights attack conservative, obviously pro-2A legislators, such as Representative Mike Cronk, Speaker Kathy Tilton, her husband, Kevin McCabe, Representative Kevin McCabe, and many others. And she goes on to talk about this, and this is an interesting piece. I'm going to link this into the chat room so you guys can take a look at this. Look, just because an organization says they are for gun rights, obviously not your friend. I'm sorry to say that, but that's just the way it is. So just because somebody says they are for your gun rights doesn't mean that they're there to help you. So I had heard some of these things about this organization before, that this is part of kind of that the FACL organization, and I can't remember right off the top of my mind what FACL stands for, but it's a group of conservatives who are so strident in what they believe that they're willing to basically shoot anybody else who doesn't 100% agree with their absolutism. I think I've kind of laid that out there in, as clear as I can be. And then the bill goes on to talk about who is part of this and what their parts are, in how it's connected to other parts of the legislature, staffer's office, some people in Eastman's office, and everything else. It's an interesting read. I'm reserving my judgment right now. I have seen some of the flyers that have come out that have said, like for example, that said that Kevin McCabe was anti-gun, which I found ridiculous because Kevin and I have had many conversations and he sponsored legislation that was not anti-gun. So I don't know exactly how to me, it's a very large leap from one to the other. And so I just want people, before they start throwing money around and donating to different causes, I think I flat out told you last week, stop giving money to the NRA, period. Give it to GOA. Give it to the Firearms Policy Coalition. Give it to the Second Amendment Foundation. Give it to, whatever organization, but make sure that organization truly is about your gun rights, right? Make sure that truly is. And so my same argument would be here on the Alaska gun rights. do your homework before you start sending them money and sending them checks. Because this article is very interesting. And it kind of highlights some of the things behind the scenes that I don't think most people understand or get a chance to look at. So go check it out. Take a look at it. And Alaska gun rights and what is their major malfunction? That's the title. Back on August the 18th. So if you haven't had a chance to go read it, go take a peek at it at mustreadalaska.com. And then we could talk about it next week. If you want to call in and talk about it next week, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that as well. Because this, again, somebody who has got an agenda outside of what I think their agenda is. If you say that your agenda is gun rights, that's one thing. But if then, like, for example, with the NRA, if you show yourself to be completely unreliable in that arena, then maybe that's not really your major focus. Maybe you've got something else going on that we need to all talk about. You know what I mean? All right. We are out of time for today in this segment for firearm stuff. We got Willie Waffle coming up next. We're going to continue the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break right now. Have things stay now trying to track how everybody's doing. 9 people on Rumble and 25 people on Facebook. So Facebook seems to have stabilized. That's I should do this. Kamala Harris ran on in 2020 was removing that. And again, that quote that I played you before, she was just talking about just taking assault weapons, whether it was constitutional or not. And that's why she couldn't even carry her own state in her presidential bid back in 2020, for sure. Once or was concealed carry, asked Travis. I know that in the Valley they also do some traveling, and I know. Greg, are you guys doing? Greg will tell us. He's in the chat room here, isn't he? Yep. Greg, are you guys doing any concealed carry courses down there as well? You there? Which they considered themselves to be right of the NRA, but I don't know. I just think it's interesting to take a look at, how people are utilizing a certain bludgeon to try and basically what Lynn says in this article is that they're basically trying to co-opt people into voting for other pieces of legislation. Otherwise, they will tar and feather them as anti-gun if they don't toe the line on things that are you know, other pieces of legislation that are out there, kind of thing. This might be a computer issue. I don't know. At some point, this might be an actual computer issue. Because I just scrolling backwards here and some of the comments on Facebook. Unfortunately, I can't share the comments because inside the StreamYard broadcaster. But I've been reading them out to you as we go along. It's thinking. You know what? I just feel like I should just go back to bed at this point. At this day, if this isn't indicative of how this day is going to go, what? Social media giants censoring unwanted opinions? Say it ain't so. Yeah. Say it. Say it. It ain't so, my friends. Just say it ain't so. All right. Let's change the coloring here. We got Willie coming up to review.
Like, you know, when there's a holiday involved and you're thinking, I got a 3-day weekend coming up. I'm ready now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just, you know, I'm calling sick for the arena. Dealer's choice, my friend. I'll let you fly free today. Where are we starting?
Dare I start with the rumor du jour?
Okay.
Yes, I will. The hottest rumor going. A Yellowstone season 6.
Oh, really? I thought Kevin Costner was out the door. I thought that was all done.
He's still out the door, baby.
Oh, okay.
He's still gone.
Okay.
He's still out. But supposedly negotiations have started to take place between two of the other stars, Kelly Riley and Cole Hauser, to try to make allegedly final episodes.
Right.
But, you know, there's been all sorts of mixed reports. I mean, you know, a couple months ago they were talking about that's going to have Michelle Pfeiffer,
right.
And now maybe are they going to be in both? Are they going to be in one, not the other? What's going on? Is there going to be a Yellowstone season 6? We just don't know yet. But I'll tell you who does want it: Paramount, because they're getting sold right now, and they need to have some money coming in the doors, and a 6th season of Yellowstone would probably help immensely.
Yeah, no, I think that would help bolster their worth for sure. And of course, Kelly Riley and Cole Hauser play Beth and Rip on the show. So just in case those of you who don't know what the name of the actors and actresses are, and they're like the wonder couple in the back of this whole thing. I mean,
yes,
mismatch, anti-hero, foul-mouthed kind of. Anyway, it'd be interesting. And there's talk, I guess, that there also might appear in the spinoff, right? You just said that?
Yeah, they might be in both. I mean, it's crazy. But if there's one thing I've learned in life, in Hollywood, when these rumors start, there's something going on. Where there's smoke, there's fire, almost all the time.
Nice. Well, I guess we'll see what happens there. All right, La Bamba.
Yay!
Are they again? Again, you know my feeling on this.
I know.
Do we really need? I mean, it's a classic. La Bamba, 1987, put Lou Diamond Phillips on the map. The guy was basically relative unknown up until then. Catapulted him into the spotlight. Classic movie. Everything else, and now, again, we're going to redo what we've already done. You know how I feel about this.
Yeah, I know, but it depends on who you believe here. So, the original writer and director of La Bamba, 1987, Louis Valdez, he's been hired on to be a producer. Yes, he wants to remake the movie, remake the story of not the Big Bopper, pardon me, I can't believe it, Richie Valens. And he says the reason he wants to do this is because they have very promising, all new, just learned biographical details about Richie Valens.
Okay, they dug up.
I'm calling BS, baby.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's not going to be. He secretly was supporting a whole family with his money.
Yeah.
And helping them go to college. That's never going to be the new biographical information that comes out. Oh, it's going to be something that is going to try to change our perception of Richie Valens, and I'll leave it at that.
Just like an episode of the Real Housewives of New Jersey or something. I mean, that's gonna. I mean, my God, what a. Again, I mean, and sure, it's a great story, Richie Valens, and it introduced a whole new people to who Richie Valens was, and it did all that. But man, there's so many
movies out there.
I know
you can watch it
there's
now.
so many people out there that you could do a movie on that would be, something new, something. Why? Anyway,
well,
okay.
This is the amazing thing to me. Okay, let me get on my soapbox for a minute. We live in a world where you can stream almost anything anytime you ever want to. Why do I have to remake the Richie Valens movie when I can go walk over to my computer or look at my phone and watch it right now?
Yeah, exactly. Why would I wait? Why would I spend extra money when I can watch the original classic right now?
Yeah.
I don't understand. And again, this is not just some low thing. This is a big film. I mean, it's
massive film.
It's on the National Film Registry, right? I mean, this is like a big deal.
Yes, Library of Congress.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big deal. So anyway, all right. Michael Crichton, who probably most people know as an author, like a fantastic author, like amazing. Like I've read a lot of his books. Every one of them is almost a masterpiece. A lot of his stuff's been adapted for movies and television and everything else. But a lot of people don't know that he was the creator of ER, that smash hit, right? The ER back in the day. And
NBC 1994 gave us George Clooney.
Yeah, and apparently the estate of Michael Crichton, because he passed away here a few years ago, is up in arms over this some stuff with the ER. Give me the details.
This is a wild story. So as the story goes, back during COVID and at a time when you're reviving series and kind of, providing like sequels, if you will, was becoming a very chic thing to do, Noah Wiley, who's one of the stars from ER, along with John Wells and R. Scott Gemmell, who were producers and writers, hatched a plan. Why don't we go back to ER, almost, 30 years later?
Right.
and see what's going on in Chicago. And there were a lot of negotiations, and they were going back and forth, and there was a falling out between Michael Crichton's estate and these guys over trying to say that he was the series creator of ER as opposed to the credits he already had. Well, when this fell apart, Wiley and the team decided, well, we're going to still do a show about an ER. It's going to be now in Pittsburgh. And Crichton's family is suing them, saying that they're just trying to rip off ER. And this is going to be a real interesting fight here, because this goes bigger than just about ER. You know, it falls into a lot of the, I don't know how to say it, the bad blood between like Warner Brothers and the Crichton family over other slights that they feel have happened over the years.
Right.
Like some of the stuff that happened around Westworld, which was a movie that he made, and then they made the series about it.
Right.
So, you know, now the ER folks are saying, listen, we're going to make a hospital show unlike anything you've ever seen. We're going to do this in Pittsburgh. We're going to have different kind of stories. We're not just remaking ER. And, you know, it's going to be hard to say that they are remaking ER, because let's face it, people have been doing hospital shows every year since television was invented.
Right. This is nothing new. That's going to be a hard thing to stick, quite honestly.
It's going to be really hard.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand, but I mean, the whole Westworld thing and everything else, I mean, I can understand them being a little salty about it, but at some point you got to be like, you know, the West Wind thing, I think the Westworld thing was a little bit more blatant. This is kind of like, that's like having a cop procedural show. You can't do any more cop procedural shows. Really? I mean, what? I mean, you know, can't do buddy comedies, you know?
The family of Lucille Ball steps up and says, nobody else can do sitcoms.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think they're going to have a hard time with this one, but, you know, and I've watched a few episodes of ER over the years, but again, not something that's going to catch my mind. I saw the trailer or the thing for The Pit. That's what the new one's called. Pittsburgh. It's called The Pit.
The Pit. Yep.
And I was like, meh, okay. I mean, I'll take a pass on that, but we'll see. We'll see what goes on. Any word on what effect this is going to have? Are they moving forward with this? I mean,
they're still moving forward. They've got a deal to air 15 episodes on Max. So, like, you know, I think, you know, short of Crichton's estate getting an injunction to stop the airing of the show, which would be pretty difficult to do.
Yeah.
You know, I think this thing's happening.
Yeah.
They're moving
I mean,
forward.
the only similarity between here is the fact that Noah Wiley and Wells and Gemmell, they were part of ER to begin with. That's the only, that if it was three other guys, I don't think Crichton would have a leg to stand on, but well, you know, not that he's dead. He doesn't, but his family wouldn't have a leg to stand on.
Right. And to be honest with you, the family almost needs them to air the show, because then there are damages. Because right now it's just an idea.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Yeah, we.
You with me, Willie? Did I lose you?
I'm with you. I just,
out.
you know, I was letting the moment.
Okay, all right. I thought you were cutting out first. Don't freak me out like that, man.
No,
dead air on radio.
No, no, man. I'm good.
All right, well, let's move over to the. Dude, really? Baywatch? You know.
Yeah, man.
I don't want to talk about that. All right, so quickly, we've got 4, so let's get into this. I want to talk about Reagan. I want to talk about Afraid. Give me the other 2 real quick here. What do we got?
Okay, the other 2 really quick. After Baywatch, Moment in the Sun. Hulu, which is like, you know, the nostalgia network, as I have called them in the past, you know, the 80s network, as I've called them in the past. Well, they have a new almost 4-hour, 4-part documentary about Baywatch, its rise to prominence, all the stars, you know, not a lot of the gossip and things that I really wanted, but, you know, kind of talking about its role in society, its impact on television, and what happened to all those stars. It's 2.5 waffles, people. Okay.
Is it really? Is it really
Let's
2.5?
Celebrate it.
Oh wow. Okay.
Hey, I watched the whole thing in one night, man. I was hooked.
I'm proud.
Granted, they don't tell the stories very well.
Right.
Okay. They're jumping all over the place. They don't really have any kind of organization. But then they start showing clips for the show, and I'm like, yeah, I really liked this show.
Willie, I can proudly say I have never seen a single episode of Baywatch.
Never.
Okay? Never. Not a single.
I used to watch it every single week. my roommate and I, when we were in DC, we knew exactly when it came on, and boom, we were watching Baywatch.
Bunch of horny teenagers. Okay. All right, let's move over to Only Murders in the Building. They've got a season 4.
That's right, baby. If there's a season 4, it means there's been a 4th murder in the building. And and listen, I love the show. I think that darn it, we're going to have a good time. They've had trials now,
right?
And it's for people who haven't seen it, it's Hulu. It's Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. They started off as just podcast enthusiasts, and when somebody was murdered in their building, they decided to try to solve the murder and make a podcast about it. And now they've become so famous in season 4, why they have to go to Hollywood because a Hollywood studio is making a movie about their podcast, and it is a great way to mock and satirize Hollywood. It is a fun mystery. Mystery that people are going to be much more, I think, emotionally involved with. Help their family because he's going to be trying to help sell this product as a marketing person, and it turns out the artificial intelligence is evil, and now they have to try to find a way to keep themselves safe. I thought it was awesome. I'm at 3.5 waffles for Afraid.
Oh, wow.
I think it's really good.
A new, fresh idea?
It's a little bit like the Megan movie from not too long ago, where it becomes a little possessive and it starts to maybe act out in ways that it shouldn't. But I like the way they just kind of slowly just drip, drag you into the big mystery and into the danger, and before you know it, you're on the edge of your seat. I thought it was really good.
Finally, the movie that nobody has been talking about. This has been blacklisted by Hollywood. Dennis Quaid plays in a biopic, Ronald Reagan. It's called Reagan. I got 60 seconds, dude. Give me the quickness here.
It has been blacklisted by Hollywood because it's a combination of a religious themed movie and a movie about Republican Ronald Reagan. And I sadly think that how you feel about Reagan is how people are judging the movie. Okay, listen, it's telling his whole life story. There's a lot to fit in there. It's hard to tell all those stories. I think if they had focused in on maybe one or two events, I think that might have helped. Dennis Quaid, let's face it, I like Dennis Quaid. He's a good leading man, but he's not known to really, disappear into characters here.
Right.
But I'm at 2.5 waffles. It's a good telling about Reagan and his life and what motivated him. And if you don't like Reagan, well, then don't watch the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not a reason to say it's a bad movie.
Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Folks, out of time. Monday, we're gone. We'll see you Tuesday. Okay. So first and foremost, this movie got any press that I saw on this movie was it's despicable. Haven't even seen it yet. I think it's despicable. Right? I mean, that's the thing.
Right.
That's kind of the reaction. But I mean, good. Dennis Quaid, good, solid production house. And like you said,
I mean, he's okay.
Yeah, but the problem is, again, I mean, well, maybe not the problem, but the problem is that Hollywood is not filling the void of movies with some kind of spiritual message or Christian message, and there's a desire for that out there. We saw that with Passion of the Christ. We've seen that with The Sound of Freedom. We've seen that with a lot of these other movies where people really like that, and so some studios are delivering on that. But it's like you said, people hadn't even seen, for example, Sound of Freedom, and they were dogging it and saying how horrible it was and how, I mean, it's crazy. It really is that the way that they, instead of giving it a straight shot, they are prejudging everything, and that just is frustrating.
Yeah, and one of the things that really gets me, I mean, I like to read other critics. I like to see what other people think about movies, just out of curiosity, because I like the craft of reviewing movies. And it really kind of is shocking to me that every bad review of the movie that I see, it pretty much follows the same pattern. Oh well, it's a flowery telling of his history, but it leaves out this evil thing he did, and it leaves out that evil thing he did. I'm like, wow. Have you ever seen movies where they can't say everything? They don't talk about everything. They can't fit it all in. Why does it have to be somehow in their mind even-handed?
Right.
How
right.
even-handed? I don't get what you're even going for there. This is the story of a person. It's a story of somebody that a lot of people admire. And yes, editorial decisions are made to feature certain things to tell the story. Hey, there's been other Reagan things that weren't as flattering. Didn't James Brolin did like a Reagan thing on cable or on HBO or
Right,
Showtime or
right.
something years ago? Yeah, I mean, so that's out there. If you wanna, that's what you want. Go ahead and have it. But I think that when you let your personal emotions judge the movie and its quality, you're doing a disservice to yourself and to your audience.
Yeah.
Listen, I know some of the writing is a little ham-handed. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get that Dennis Quaid is not a perfect spitting image of Ronald Reagan in his mannerisms or his looks, but he's okay.
Right.
It's not horrible. He hasn't like committed some sin or some crime because he played Reagan.
Right.
I mean, did you
Yeah.
see what's been going on with Cheryl Hines this week? This is really interesting, and I
No.
think this movie is kind of brings this to my mind. So Cheryl Hines, for people who aren't familiar with her, is a comedian, actress, a comic actress, starred on Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David on HBO, a very popular show. She's had a very good career. Well, she's also married to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Right. Right.
And as soon as he endorsed Donald Trump, she started getting this vitriol on social media, not just from like trolls. We're talking about Hollywood actors and actresses who are saying horrible things about her. Like something's wrong with her because they think she has some sort of duty to denounce the man that she's married to.
Right.
And
Yeah.
she's not going to be able to work in Hollywood.
Yeah. No.
Because of this.
Oh, of course not. Yeah, of course not. They just couldn't possibly lay this out. I mean, the thing is, here's the thing: the elites, they can't take the temperature in the room either. Going back to Reagan, critic score on Rotten Tomatoes 26%, but what's the audience score, Willie? 98%. 98%. They say this is a great movie.
Yeah.
The critics, all the elites, it's so tedious. Oh, it's a worshipful biopic of it's actually it's a less insightful look at the man and more a fawning idealization promoting a political viewpoint. Oh my God, really? Get over yourselves, you guys. I mean, seriously. And
one of the greatest examples of this, I don't know if you and I have ever talked about this. When DiCaprio and Clint Eastwood did the J. Edgar movie years ago,
right?
It got a lot of hubbub and a lot of attention because it got into the stories that are not confirmed by anybody that somehow J. Edgar Hoover was a crossdresser who liked to go to bars and meet men.
Right.
And this was in the movie. And, and I had a chance to talk to Clint Eastwood about this. And I literally asked him, I said, is this something that you believe? Is that why it's in the movie? And he was kind of like, yeah, I don't really believe it. But, we're making a movie. And I'm like, oh, my God.
It makes a good story, right? It makes a good story, It's a hook. It's a good hook. What are you going to do? Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I feel like that almost had to be included for a Hollywood studio to go, yeah, let's make this movie.
Right.
Because we're not going to portray him as some hero. Now, there's plenty of other things you could go after J. Edgar Hoover for. And, and they're in the movie. And I think those are legitimate looks at his life and his career. But all the talk was about that scene.
Yeah, exactly. Which wasn't even confirmed. Anyway, okay. So again, 2.5 waffles for Reagan the movie. I'll watch it. I probably won't at the theater. I'll wait for it to hit the stream, but we'll see. But now I've got to go watch Afraid because now you're like all about it. So
I really like it, and it's going to totally tank this weekend. I'm not going to lie. When I went to see it, you're gonna laugh at this. I had the whole theater to myself.
Oh,
like
wow.
I was the only person there. So like there's no one going to see this movie this week. You're gonna find it on video on demand in someplace within like 2, 3, 4 weeks easily. But it's such a cool idea. And it's a good cast. I mean, Catherine Waterston is in here as the wife, John Cho as the husband, and they have this reluctance. They're worried about modern technology as it is. And now this thing moves into their house and it really kind of starts turning their children a little bit against them and becoming their best friend and kind of giving them things that their parents would never give. And you just start to get wrapped up in it. And it's kind of this really interesting commentary about technology and what's going on here and how it's impacting our lives and how we control our lives and have negative effects on our lives.
Yeah.
So I dug it, man. I thought it was really good.
All right. Well, good. I'll have to watch it. We've run. I'm sorry, buddy. I know you got stuff to do. I've ran you long. But that's good. That's good stuff. Well, I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy your time off, my friend. And
I will.
And just put your feet up for me, will you? I'm going to be busy. So put your feet up for me and enjoy.
Hey, you don't have to ask me twice, man.
Yeah.
Do it. Feet are going up now.
Take one for the team, will you? Do one for me. All right.
Sorry if I have to.
Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Thanks so much, my friend. All right, folks, gotta go. The Michael Duke Show continues on Tuesday. Brad Keithley, Chris Story will be joining us. We will see you then. Have a groovy weekend.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.